Good evening. Tonight I'll be talking with you all about an article from EdTech Focus on K-12 titled Question and Answer Rachel Gorton on How K-12 Schools Envision the Future of Education. The author starts off by talking about how there is so much technology, so many new programs, and just out there that we can implement, but how the primary focus of all the technology is to improve student outcomes. The author goes on to discuss Vision 191, and this is a blueprint for the school district that's in Minnesota for redesigning the district to meet the needs of today's students and to look at what modern education is. So the author goes on to talk about how this school district had the old junior high model. So it sounded like they had sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth grade students all together in one building. With all the growth that had taken place, though the school district changed that model and they added it looks like 36 classrooms to their high school. And in doing so, they had the opportunity to plan out these classrooms in a way that would be best for their students. So instead of the traditional way with the whiteboard at the front of the classroom, they designed these classrooms where there's no front of the room, and where there's monitors around the classroom for students to view. There's collaborative furniture, so chairs that can move, tables that can move. There's a one-to-one environment with technology, so all students have a Chromebook or a laptop, and for students in 4th through 12th grade. And then the younger students have a 2-to-1 ratio, so 2 students to 1 computer in their classrooms. They also have multimedia labs and STEM labs, and also the technology and software there for 3D modeling. It goes on to talk about it, and a really interesting point in their high schools where normally students have to choose either a college or a career path when they're in ninth grade and they're just starting out. However, at this school, they're focused on sequencing courses that in a way that leads students to a certification. So instead of, like I said, instead of the students having to choose whether they're, going to college or they're going straight into a career or to a technical school, they're able to take courses that interest them and that lead to a certification and just help them as they journey along to figure out, what they want to do with their life. And then also one thing that the author states that I want to point out, she goes on to say that our one-to-one implementation isn't about getting devices into students' hands, but it's about changing learning environments and the instructional strategies that we use. So, their focus moved from just getting the technology and making sure that we have a one-to-one initiative where all students have a Chromebook or a laptop. They stepped back from that and said, hey, our focus is, changing those environments to increase learning and to improve those student outcomes. So I thought that was a really great point, and that's something that definitely stood out to me as I read this article. I think it's easy to get caught up in just getting the technology, but we forget that the purpose of the technology is to improve those student learning outcomes. The author goes on to talk about maker spaces, and this is something that I was not familiar with, so I was really happy to learn about that. They have maker spaces in all the elementary and middle schools, and so my understanding of what that is, it's just a place where students can focus on student inquiry. So a lot of times, this happens at the end of a unit, but instead of this learning happening at the end of the unit, they're providing the maker space throughout the unit. And so as part of the learning process, also these maker spaces incorporate that social emotional learning piece, because the makerspace is an area where students can collaborate and come up with new ideas, and just really make the learning their own. So overall, the article provided a lot of great information. Definitely made me think of some new ideas, and just to reflect on my thinking in terms of technology, and why we use technology in schools. So anyhow, you guys have a great evening. Thanks for listening.